Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. The black foaming around me, don't know where I've been. The hell I'm back on fire, a drive that's your Cadillac. In fact, diagnosed sick in the head, that's facts. Still lacking no defense for attack. Coming down with a sickness instead. Everything I said, it meant to make sense. I'm experienced.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Jackson Files. Today we're going to check out a new episode of That Chapter from Mike. This one is called The Case of Rachelle Waterman. I don't believe I'm familiar with this one. I'm looking forward to finding out what this is all about. If you're new to my channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you like true crime, music, sports, and comedy content, then you've come to the right place. I do YouTube full-time, so please consider becoming a channel member or joining my Patreon. I would truly appreciate it. And I do have a special through the end of the year that I'll react to anything you want. For 15 bucks, just send it to my PayPal, CashApp, or Patreon with what you would like me to react to. I'll get that taken care of for you. Let's get right into this. I will put a link to the original video, so definitely go show Mike some love. Let him know that Jackson sent you. This is the case, of Rachelle Waterman.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, it takes us to Alaska. Again, I know. I feel like, you know, with the amount of stories I've been telling lately that are set in Alaska, I feel like I know what it's like to be there. Not that I would want to go there with the kind of stories I've been telling. Joking, I'm sure it's a fantastic place, you know.
It's kind of crazy. I did react to the SD card killer recently that Mike did an episode on that happened in Alaska. And I had somebody reach out to me that I know personally that had knew some personal things about that case, which is pretty crazy to me, man. It just like reminds me that it's a very small world out there.
You got bears, so this is a story of a blog, My Crappy Life. It's always funny when someone titles a yoke like that because you know that that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it sure was in this one. To Craig, Alaska, to the Watermans, to a very bizarre story. So, let's give it a go. It's hard to get more away than Craig, Alaska. It's on Prince of Wales Island, hugging the northwest coast of North America. It's pretty much a one-road town. Fishing is the name of the game. Roughly 1,000 people live there, a number that's been steadily decreasing over time.
Wow.
Not a whole lot to say about Craig, you kind of seen it there on the map. But one thing that did stick out was, when I was having a gander at the place, was this pretty crazy unsolved murder that happened in 1982. 8 people were killed. Who knows whom by? That one was a who.
Wow.
A fishing boat, the Investor, was found engulfed in flames. It had been docked at Craig and then settled on an island a mile away. 8 people were killed on the boat, believed to have been shot before the fire was set.
Oh, what a photograph that is, huh?
One man, a John Peel, he was arrested for it. He'd worked with the owner of the Investor and one of the victims, Mark Colthurst. They had a sometimes sour, sometimes sweet relationship. Now John, he was later acquitted of it, so it is unsolved. His membership of the IRA, though, still up for grabs. And it is a really interesting story, but that's for another day.
It's really weird that he was wearing that mask in like a fucking courtroom or whatever.
The point is, there's kind of like this Wild West feeling about Craig. A place, you need a reason to go there. You know what I mean? And that was where the Watermans lived, made up of Laurie, a special ed teacher and volunteer, Carl, Doc, a real estate agent, so he had his work cut out for him, and their daughter, Rachelle. In 2004, 16 years old. She was a member of the school choir and volleyball team. There was also son Jeffrey, but he was away at college in Washington. Yeah, by the way, I noticed also, Craig is so remote, they don't even have many pixels there. You'll see all the pictures are kind of like that. The house was happy for the most part, to the parents at least, although they disapproved of Rachelle's boyfriend, Jason Arendt, and Jason Arendt's best friend, Brian Radel, whom Rachel had also dated. She has a type, I'll give her that. Jason, who Rachelle was currently dating, well actually, both Jason and Brian were 24 years old, 8 years older than Rachelle. and Rachelle had dated them both. So, slim pickings in Craig, I guess.
Slim.
But that's the least weird part of this story. So current boyfriend Jason, he worked as a janitor at the high school and was a Marine Corps dropout. The elder Watermans, Laurie especially, not a fan of him. Jason's best bud and Rachelle's ex Brian, he worked in a computer store. Bit of a geek. But they seemed fine for the most part. So, inciting, incidents. You wanna? Shall we? Saturday 13th of November 2004. Pretty quiet, pretty cold. Especially quiet in the Waterman abode. Doc, he was out of town that weekend. He was in Juneau, as was daughter Rachelle, participating in a volleyball tournament in Anchorage. So Laurie was by her lonesome. The 48-year-old spent the day volunteering, as she loved to do. That day she was at a Chamber of Commerce dinner, discussing booming business in Craig. After that she went home to a quiet, empty house, went to sleep. The very next morning, Laurie, always attentive at church, well, that Sunday, she wasn't there. And when Doc and Rachelle both returned that Sunday afternoon, almost at the same time, she wasn't there either. Neither was her minivan. No notes, no messages, no answer on the phone. She was just gone. Doc checked in with the neighbors, nada. In fact, she was actually supposed to pop into the neighbors that afternoon.
Interesting.
Never showed up. Never heard from her. What was especially off was, well, weird things around the house. The bed, for example, hadn't been made. Laurie was a neat freak. That would be the very first thing she would do as soon as she got up. Pieces of a rubber glove were found in the bedroom, and there was an empty wine bottle in the kitchen. Weird that it was empty, as Laurie, she rarely partook in the drink. Doc and Rachelle got in the car. They drove around the area hoping to spot her or the van. No dice, and so they called the police. The search was on. You're checking the woods and the waters surrounding Craig. With no luck. Doc stayed home while the search was ongoing. Rachelle, she went back to school, the next day, that Monday morning, and she just wanted some kind of normalcy. She was acting kind of weird, though.
So obviously, the daughter has something to do with it, or else it wouldn't be the case of Rachelle Waterman.
And she kind of started a rumor about her own mother that she had been drunk driving and crashed somewhere. Her mother, who never really drank, but they did find, that empty wine bottle, had drunk driven off a road. It didn't take long, though. It was that same Monday that other rumors began to spread that meshed with what Rachelle was saying happened to her mother. A burning vehicle was found in the forest, along a remote stretch of road north of town, 40 miles away. Hunters found a van on fire. The van. Inside were bones. It was quickly determined who owned the van and who was inside. They also found a trail of gasoline around the van. Purposely done, no doubt. Pretty intense news for the quiet, sleepy town of Craig.
I'd say so.
This is now a murder investigation. Police, they executed a search warrant on the Waterman's home. They found some rope fibers on the bed and started putting some things together about what exactly happened to Laurie. Now, Doc, he was alibied up. He was confirmed he was out of town that weekend. He was in Juneau. Rachelle, the same. She was in Anchorage.
How's she with you in terms of how's your relationship?
It's pretty good. I mean, we have our normal teenage mother-daughter stuff. She doesn't like my black fingernail polish and that kind of thing. But we have a good relationship. We talk actually a lot compared to what I know about my friends and their mothers.
Okay. So she's already confiding a lot.
Yeah, I do confide in her.
Does she confide in you with things?
But they didn't find evidence of a burglary or doors smashed in or anything like that, so they quickly looked at who had been a source of strife in the house. Rachelle's boyfriend, who Laurie kind of fucking hated.
There's been any sexual contact.
Kind of fucking hated.
Between Jason and your brother?
Nope.
Not at all?
Nope.
Well, if we could tell you we've had some information about that.
That's completely false.
Mm-hmm. So why would Jason and Brian tell us they had sex?
Trying to make their egos inflate.
Mm-hmm.
The Ginger Prince, Jason Arndt. He was quickly brought in.
That makes you wonder, though, because if they're 24, why would they admit to having sex with a 16-year-old? Isn't that, Isn't that justifiably like rape according to the law?
For questioning and quickly told the police every little thing. That his friend Brian Radel had killed Laurie. A
Oh,
Brian
shit.
who had recently shaved his whole head. Soon after Jason wore a wire and him and Brian went out for a nice little drive, well, Brian basically said how he did it while the police were listening and how Jason helped. Both boys were brought in and confessed right away. Brian had been the one who broke into the Waterman house. He did so via the cat door. So that's why there was no signs of any kind of break-in or anything like that. He went in the house, went up to Laurie's room while she slept, woke her up and said if she did exactly what he said, she'd be fine. He forced her to drink a bottle of wine. Not chloroform, but okay, because it kind of worked. He got her pretty hammered, so he could kind of do with her whatever he wanted. He then forced her into her own minivan and he drove. He'd buzzed his own hair off to avoid leaving any, trace evidence or whatever. Out in the wild, they met with Jason, where they tried and failed to break the poor woman's neck with like one of those heavy-duty flashlights.
Jesus.
It's pretty messed up. They then smothered her to death, put her in the van, and doused it in gasoline.
Why?
The reason they had done this, they said, was to protect Rachelle.
They've told us everything. They've given you up to Rachelle.
Oh, they offered me and said no. I said I loved her.
Sorry, what?
I said I loved her.
Things around Rachelle's weren't too sweet.
We have developed evidence that indicates that Jason and Brian were responsible for your mother's death. All right? And we believe that somehow, probably very unwittingly, you are a catalyst in this whole incident. Okay? There's a possibility that they may have misunderstood something you have said about relationships and disapproval of your mother and things along those lines that have motivated them to do this thing. Okay?
I highly doubt Jason would do anything like that. I just really don't think so. He's just not, no, he wouldn't.
Things are actually weird as shit, and they found the blog, My Crappy Life. Weird. Rachelle in her blog would write, she would describe Craig as hell. But when she was heading to Anchorage, I'm going to Anchorage tomorrow morning, huzzah for going to Hot Topic. The day she came home to a mom-less house, well, back from Anchorage, and it was an okay trip. I got kinda sick, but oh well, yada yada yada. Not much to tell. Well, I got these incredibly awesome boots that go up to my knees. I absolutely love them. We'll post a pic later. Okay. And then the day she learned her mother had been killed, she wrote in her blog, just to let everyone know my mother was murdered. I won't have computer access until the weekend or so because the police took my computer to go through the hard drive. I'm surprised she didn't put like at least sad face. Come on. Majority of it was just general teenage shit. A lot of whinging, a lot of moaning, a lot of cringing. But Rachelle had a dark side in that kind of teenage way. Hey, if it wasn't from Hot Topic, she wasn't buying it. Talking she dressed in like black clothing, pentagrams. As we've seen here multiple times before, scary shit, am I right? I say that sarcastically, but every time it comes up, there's a murder involved, so. And they learned what Rachelle said Laurie was really like. Rachelle said Laurie beat her with a baseball bat. She threw her down the stairs. She threatened to stab her to death. She threatened to sell her into slavery. And Rachelle happily told all this to Jason and Brian and showed them the bruises.
Once I was in marriage, she came in with a baseball bat on my legs. And she tried to push me down the stairs.
She said she was suffering from physical and emotional abuse at the hands of her mother, and that she wanted Laurie dead.
No offense, but you did a really good job making it sound like it was my fault.
I'm sorry for that. You gotta understand where I'm coming from.
And so, a number of weeks before the murder, Brian, deciding to be a white knight, decided to ambush Laurie with a shotgun. Jason ended up telling Rachelle what Brian was going to do. And Rachelle asked Jason, tell Brian, don't do it, don't kill my mother. Now Jason didn't tell Brian that, so the ambush was prepared. However, Brian forgot the bolt for the weapon for the rifle, so nothing happened. Rachelle, now, even though she'd asked, don't do it, don't kill my mother, she wasn't exactly too relieved that it didn't happen. In fact, now she seemed more determined than ever to see it through. A few weeks later, she told them both that she'd been beaten again, and this time Jason and Brian decided to give it another go. Jason, bit of a loser.
That's fucking horrible if, like, her mom really didn't beat her and she just made it all up. Like, that's so awful.
So he was afraid of losing Rachelle, either to, her dumping him, or to the mother he knew was disapproving of their relationship. So he would do whatever it took to try and keep them together. Yeah, murdering usually works. And Brian was his blood brother who would, help him out. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, there really must be nothing to do in Alaska.
You're saying it's possible they misconstrued all this talk? That they're going to rescue you because you're good buddy, or because they want mom out of the way so they can have sex with you?
I'm really highly doubt it was the second one.
This time they planned to make it look like an accident. They waited until Doc and Rachelle were out of town, and then they did what they did.
You, a few days before it happened, you called and told them you were going to be gone, and your dad was going to be gone, and the window of opportunity was now presenting itself, and that they were to do the deed, and they did do it. But the plan was to stage a drunken drive-in accident, but that didn't work too well, and they ended up doing what they did. And then Sunday, Jason, you called in and he gave you a report that it happened. Okay. They told all. Now, I just want you to understand something. There's a big difference between being the person who actually commits the crime, the actual killing, and the people participating in the planning of it. Now, I know you participated in the plan. We have more of these. We got your computer, we got Brian's computer, we got Jason's computer. And even though he may delete things, the computer still saves it.
Whether Rachelle, though, was really complicit in her own mother's death, that was the question. Though it was interesting that before her mother was found, she said she had probably been involved in a drunk driving accident. Exactly what the lads planned to make it look like.
You talked to Jason on Sunday after you got back, and he gave you a status report. And you told your friends Monday, before the body had been identified, that your mom probably died in a drunk driving accident. Because what I assumed. That's because that was what the plan was. That's what they told you. The plan was going to be.
Rachelle denied it all. She said she had no idea what they were going to do. Yes, her mother, was abusive towards her, but she never knew of any plot to kill her. And she wouldn't have wanted it.
These look like the type of guys that would have to go for a 16-year-old woman, or girl, I should say.
In the house, the Watermans, when the police executed that
Real
search
winners.
warrant, they found a letter on Rachelle's bedside locker. It was from Laurie to Rachelle. In it, she apologized for the tensions between the two of them and told Rachelle how much she is loved. Probably that's what it was. There was tension in the house for sure, but nothing more. To a teenage mind like Rachelle's, it was a hell of a lot more when she was telling it to Brian and Jason. Anyway.
I wish Laurie was alive today, and I don't wish that because I'm in jail. I wish that because she shouldn't be dead.
Jason and Brian both pleaded guilty to murder.
So, not that it makes it any better, but like these young men thought that this 16-year-old girl was being badly beaten and abused by her mom, and that could be part of why they did what they did. That's kind of what I take away with what that guy just said right there. And then in reality, they were being lied to, and that stuff wasn't even happening.
Murder. Both testified against Rachelle. A Rachelle who was charged with, amongst other charges, first and second degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Brian got 99 years, Jason got 55 years, and Rachelle's trial began in 2006 in Juneau, Alaska. The prosecution aimed to prove that Rachelle wanted her mother dead and was in complete cahoots with Brian and Jason, manipulating them into doing it. Rachelle and the defense, and her own father, who stood by her, denied this, of course.
There's only really one difference between Rachelle Waterman and every other teenage girl. Rachelle Waterman had the misfortune to repeat her comments to Jason Arendt.
That Jason and Brian killed Laurie of their own accord to get, the disapproving mother out of the picture. After all, the defense said, Brian and Jason, these were guys in their 20s, plying Rachelle, a teenage Rachelle, with booze and drugs and smokes and...
I would hate to be like a, defense lawyer and be defending somebody I knew was fucking guilty, man. Like, that would be a rough spot to be in.
Whatever. They were predators. Rachelle was 16 years old.
Rachelle turned 16 in August of 2003. In July of 2003, she and Jason had sex. Once again, it's a crime in the state of Alaska. And Jason would give her marijuana, he'd give her booze, and he'd give her tobacco. All of those are crimes in the state of Alaska.
They were twisting her complaints about her mother, turning them into an excuse to murder.
She also talked with people about how her mom would abuse her. She would say, yeah, my mom hits me. My mom slaps me. My mom's on me for this. Mom's on me for that. What's interesting is Rachelle's teenage friends had the common sense to know Rachelle's blowing smoke. It's Rachelle's adult friends that take advantage of that and use that, just like they use her. And so Rachelle says, I would be so much better off without my mom. And Jason says, well, I can take care of that. Oh, sure, we do that. So da 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 da. And that's where it starts.
Jason took the stand. He read emails they had shared, talking about ending Laurie's life.
How often would the conversation talk about the plans to kill her mother?
That only came up probably 1 in every 5 phone calls. We try to keep that sort of thing to a minimum.
All right. And why is that?
Just because we were both getting a little paranoid about things by then.
Okay. Who's we?
Well, myself, and I know Miss Waterman was probably getting a little antsy about it.
Okay.
He told of how Rachelle had told him how to get into the house.
I loved her, and I already told her that I would do anything for her.
Okay.
And so at that point, I decided that I needed to enlist some help.
How he had called after Laurie was killed, saying it was done, and telling how she was unhappy the van was destroyed, as she wanted to keep the van. The trial, after 2 weeks, went to the jury. There it remained for almost another week. They couldn't agree on the level of Rachelle's involvement. 10 favoured acquittal. They had reasonable doubt. 2 favoured a guilty verdict. And so it ended. The judge declared a mistrial.
Your message reads that we are unable to reach a decision on all counts. I'm fully aware that you have been deliberating for 7 days, not so much as leaving for lunch. But the law does require that I at least inquire as to whether there might be some chance of forward movement. And in doing that, let me refer to Instruction 43. Do you feel that there's any potential of that further deliberations might be beneficial?
How many times this fucking judge going to say,
And again, I don't want to know what's been going on in the course of your deliberations, but rather whether it does appear hopeless.
It's hopeless at this point. Not regards to numbers or quantity, but the proceeding of deliberation has come to the point where it's at an impasse. We cannot produce a unanimous vote with any further deliberation.
Right.
In 2011, the retrial for Rachelle Waterman, it happened then in Anchorage. In the end, this time, the jury found Rachelle not guilty of murder, but guilty of criminally negligent homicide, that she unwittingly caused her own mother's death. And so for that, she got 3 years in prison. She was and is a free woman today.
Wow.
Still collecting blogging away. And there you have it. The story of the Waterman's plot. Maybe. Legally not.
That's fucked up, man, that she only got 3 years and these young guys are spending their entire lives pretty much in fucking jail for what she masterminded.
She didn't.
That's
of course,
fucked up.
You know, just to cross that T. Bit mad though. She just negligently caused her mother's death. Which is a weird one. Kind of went out of her way to be negligent, to be fair. Brian and Jason, later, after they were both arrested, came to realize that yeah, the gruesome twosome had been duped. That Rachelle wasn't a victim of her mother. That they had murdered an innocent woman. And now, the pair of them, well, will probably spend the rest of their lives behind bars. Sad story, they should have went fishing or whatever. Like I said, I guess there's a limited things to do in Craig. And so ends this chapter.
Yeah, very fucked up story there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think she should have got at least what they got, if not more, in my opinion. Because, you know, just from the information that was presented here, it seems to me that she lied and she masterminded all of this to get her mom out of the way. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Everybody stay safe. Have a happy holiday coming up. And I'll see you guys next time.
The road that I was needing to go. Just forget the negativity and be the person that you want to be. It's all about the good vibes of that good life. My whole life I've wondered what it's like to just give up. But I got no quit in my heart. I got ambition in my soul. Never let life take me down. I turn my frown upside down. See a bright, bright future. Finally turn myself around. Sometimes my head runs amok. I can't